Today I'm going to talk about some collectible items that sell really well on eBay, and you probably have some of these already. But if you don't, there's a good chance you've come across these sometime in your life, and you just never thought they're worth something. And yes, these are not going to be coins, stamps, or comic books, the obvious ones. These are less obvious, but they still sell really well. So let's get to it. I will also mention that a lot of these items I found on marksite.com, where there is a list of over 10,000 items that are selling really well on eBay right now. It's a great website for eBay research. The first one is posters. And while you might think this is obvious, it actually isn't, because posters includes a lot of things. So we have movie posters, concert posters, sports event posters, music group posters. There's a great chance that you've got an old one laying around and it might be worth something. Now, according to my research, a lot of these posters are actually worth hundreds of dollars, and they're selling at hundreds of dollars on eBay. So before you throw out your old stuff, make sure you check what it's worth, and you might find it's worth a little bit of money. This next one is less obvious, and it's used sports tickets. Yeah, you heard that right. So of course I knew that lots of things are collected in the sports industry, so baseball cards and so on. But actually I never imagined that after going to a game, the ticket is still worth something to collectors. And from what I can see, this is especially true if the game was an exciting one. So obviously if we're talking about a game where there's nothing at stake, maybe that ticket really is worth nothing. But if it's the first game from a match series, or maybe the last one, or one of the last ones, in any case, just check it out. Yeah, you'll be surprised what you find. So don't throw away your old tickets, check them on eBay. And this is something actually I did as well. So I had 4 tickets, and I checked them on eBay, and they were actually worth $30 to $40 each. And it was a really cool football game, by the way, in the summer. So I put them up on eBay, and maybe in a later video I'll let you know how that went. Let's move on to my next one, and that's actually old newspapers. Now hear me out on this one. I have this strong feeling that 30 years from now, or maybe even less, newspapers are going to be a thing of the past. And I don't mean news outlets, I mean newspapers, real physical printed newspapers. And the reason is pretty simple. Nowadays everybody just reads their news or watches their news online, and I don't know anybody who actually buys newspapers anymore. But anyway, there's a pretty damn good chance you've got some newspapers, or old newspapers around. Now here's the thing, if you happen to have a newspaper that has a print of some historic event, then that's definitely worth some money. I'll give you an example. When I was a teenager, I bought the September 12, 2001 New York Times newspaper. And out of curiosity, I went to check what it's worth, and it's selling at around $50 right now. Now, I actually don't plan to sell that newspaper, because I would feel sort of shitty if I did make any money out of that newspaper. But really, check what you've got, and check it on eBay. So here's another good one that you can maybe sell. How about the New York Times edition talking about Obama winning the election? That's a historic event, and a positive one. Okay, so that's also worth maybe $50. Times magazines are also usually worth something. In fact, this could actually be a good investment for you. So the next time any historic event occurs, you have to know that it's going to be a historic event. But you usually do know this stuff. For example, let's say, for whatever reason, Trump resigns, okay? The next day, you go to the store and you get maybe 5 or 10 copies of the newspapers. Make sure you get the good ones too, so New York Times, or basically the high-end ones. And you put those newspapers in a bag and you seal it. 10 years from now, you'll be glad you did this, because those newspapers are going to be worth probably a little bit of money. Now I actually have some other stuff, old newspapers as well, and I'm hanging on to them because I think they're actually going to be worth more later on as time goes on, and especially when newspapers go out of style. So they will also have this retro effect to it as well. I hope you see what I'm talking about. Number 4 on my list is beach sea glass. And in case you're wondering what that is, the next time you're at the beach, look around and you might see sparkling little pieces of glass in the sand or in the rocks. And what that is old or really old broken bottles, and those glass shards have been shaped by the seawater. Now that process actually takes 30 to 40 years from what I read from Wikipedia. Now I was also surprised, just like you are probably surprised, that this stuff is actually worth something. And just go on eBay and search for sea glass and you can see some of the crazy prices that those pieces of glass fetch. Now thankfully I actually also live by the beach, so I've seen this stuff like half of my life, and I never actually thought anything of it. I was thinking that, that if you go to the beach to look for something, you'd rather look for gold rings or whatever, stuff that people lost. But actually this summer I was going to the beach to also collect this stuff, the sea glass. And I made some eBay auctions, and maybe in a later video I'll let you know how that went. And the last one is army patches. So if you served some time in your life in the military, you'll know that you have a specific patch that describes where you were serving. Even new ones are worth something, but the more expensive ones are of course much older and most likely dating back to World War II. And there's a lot of collectors for these things online. Now I can understand if you would be unwilling to let this go because, yeah, if you served, it is part of your life. But if you have one from your grandparents or from a relative, check it out. I've seen some that are worth actually thousands of dollars, the more rare ones. And I bet you probably didn't know that this was a collector's item. So I hope that helps, happy selling, and I'll see you in the next video.